Do kickers deserve to be first-round NFL draft picks? This was a question asked by Stephen Sheehan from Sportscasting.com back in 2020. Well, out of 259 picks back in 2021, only one kicker and one punter were even drafted, both of which came on day 3. It would appear that NFL GMs don't hold a high value on these positions, considering there hasn't been a first-round kicker or punter in the last 20 years. But it has happened, and these very few individuals carried a ton of pressure to be great.
Okay, there we go.
Hey, hold on. Let's start to do the math on this. This would be 76 yards. This wouldn't only be the all-time record.
The wind,
this would completely shatter it.
Wind is in his face.
To this day, there has been 5 total kickers and punters in the history of the NFL draft taken in the first round. We are going to look into each of these 5 players' careers and see how they turned out. But before we jump in, this video is brought to you by SeatGeek. SeatGeek is a company that I've been working with for a long time, and they gather tickets from all across the web and put them into one area, making buying simple. They have everything from football, baseball, basketball, concerts, festivals, or more. And with so many amazing concerts and festivals happening right now, you're not going to want to miss out. I'm talking The Weeknd, Justin Bieber, Tyler the Creator, John Mayer, Bad Bunny, and so much more. SeatGeek rates every ticket from 0 to 10 to make sure that you're getting a good deal, with green meaning good and red meaning bad. And for first-time buyers, use code KTO at checkout for $20 off your first purchase. Make sure to click the link in the description to download the app. The very first NFL draft took place in 1936, and for 29 years, there wasn't a single kicker or punter selected within the first 2 rounds. However, this all changed in 1966 because of one man, Pete Gogolak. Now, Pete wasn't a first-round pick. In fact, he was a 12th round AFL pick. This was back when there were 2 separate pro leagues, the AFL and the NFL. But to focus on Pete, he entered the pros in 1964 and immediately changed the game for kickers due to his soccer-style kicking. This was a style that was unheard of in the world of football at the time. Pete would go on to become an AFL All-Star in year 2, making by far the most field goals of any player. He also helped the Bills win back-to-back AFL championships. After that, Pete made the decision to leave Buffalo in pursuit of making the NFL, and this incited a quote-unquote war between those 2 leagues, and this became the catalyst of the AFL-NFL merger agreement that summer. I bring all of this up because it leads to Pete's brother, Charlie. Charlie Gogolak, also a rare soccer-style kicker at the time, set 7 NCAA kicking records while at Princeton, and due to the dominance of his brother, as well as the hype that Charlie had received, he ended up being drafted in the first round 6th overall by the Washington Redskins, a truly unprecedented moment in NFL history. Then, during Charlie's rookie season, he faced off against his brother Pete's team, and those 2 combined a total of 14 made extra points, which is tied for the most ever. Wow. Crazy to think that 2 kickers really took over the NFL for a brief moment. But despite all of this, Charlie Gogolak, the first ever kicker to be selected in the first round, actually became a bust. He did have a solid rookie season, but after that, he missed almost his entire second year. Then in year 3, Charlie was one of the worst kickers in the NFL, missing all 8 attempts from over 40 yards. Washington would part ways with him after just 3 seasons. Charlie would go on to play for the Patriots for another 3 years before retiring. His brother Pete played almost double the seasons that he did. Now, to move on to the next player on the list, 7 years after Charlie Gogolak became the first kicker to ever be drafted in the first round, Ray Guy became the first punter to achieve the same honor. He was taken 23rd overall by the Raiders.
I remember when we drafted him with the Oakland Raiders, and we took Ray Guy number 1. everyone said, how can you draft a punter number 1? And we said, because he's not only the best punter in the draft, he's the best punter that's ever punted a football.
Ray Guy had gained a ton of notoriety after his college career due to a 93-yard punt that he had in 1972, as well as being named the MVP as a punter of the 1973 Chicago College All-Star Game, a game in which the best college players went up against the current Super Bowl champions. Some of you may remember the video I did covering that game. But anyways, from the start, Guy went on to make 6 Pro Bowls in a row, becoming well known for his long hang time punts. In fact, the statistic for hang time was supposedly instituted into the NFL at the time because of Ray Guy. There was also this game in 1977 where the Oilers coach Bum Phillips accused Guy of using footballs that were illegally inflated with helium because he had, quote, never seen anyone hang kickoffs like Guy did. After that game, head coach Bum Phillips sent the game balls to Rice University to be tested. Of course, none of the balls had any issues with them. According to Pro Football Hall of Fame historia Joe Horrigan, Guy is, quote, the first punter you could look at and say he won games. He's given credit in helping the Raiders win 3 Super Bowls, and after his 14-year career was said and done, Ray Guy had become widely considered as the greatest punter of all time, and is a member of the Hall of Fame. He also has the award for Nation's Best College Punter named after him, so it's safe to say that he's worth the first-round pick. Now, going back to kickers, 12 years after Charlie Gogolak became the first kicker drafted in round 1, Steve Little joined him in 1978, going 15th overall to the Cardinals. In college, Little was both an All-American kicker and punter. He tied the NCAA record for longest field goal, which was 67 yards. This sent shockwaves throughout the football world. This hype, along with the fact that he could possibly play both punter and kicker in the pros, was why he was drafted so high. But this quickly backfired. Steve Little was an abysmal kicker, making less than half of his attempts, and as a punter, he was below average. His poor play, along with off-the-field issues, led him to being released from the Cardinals 6 games into his 3rd season. And tragically, hours after he was released, Steve Little was involved in a high-speed single car accident, which broke his neck and left him a quadriplegic. And after some years in hospice, Little died at the age of 43. Now, to go back to when Steve Little was in college, like I said, he had tied the record for longest field goal in NCAA history, which had been set just 2 weeks prior by a man named Russell Erxleben. Erxleben was younger than Little and had a similar type college career, with both success as a kicker and punter at the University of Texas. 1 year after Steve Little became a first-round pick, Erxleben also became a first-rounder, going 11th overall to the Saints in 1979. Again, like Little, the Saints were hoping that Erxleben would become the team's kicker and punter. In his first game as a rookie, the Saints took on the rival Falcons, and that game ended up going down to the wire, entering overtime. And after the Saints had failed to convert on a 3rd down midway through OT, Erxleben came out to punt, and this is what happened.
Erxleben picks it up and tries to throw it. It's intercepted and is taken in for a touchdown. Unbelievable.
The following week, Erxleben pulled his hamstring, and he went on to miss the rest of the season. The following year, on opening day, Erxleben had a chance to redeem himself with a game-tying field goal at the end of regulation, but he missed badly, and rather quickly, the team moved off of him as their kicker and had Erxleben strictly on punting duty. He had received the nickname $1 Million Kicker due to his first-round status, and with his struggles as a kicker, the fan base despised him. He ended up becoming a top 10 level punter for a few years, but he only lasted 5 seasons in New Orleans, which ended with him missing a tackle in the 1983 season finale. While he laid there, cascades of boos rained down from the rafters. Man, fans can be brutal. But what's more wild than that was his post-football career. which became a crime-filled life of Ponzi schemes, wire fraud, money laundering, and years in prison. So yeah, teams began to back away from the idea of selecting these types of players so early in the draft. In fact, over 20 years went by before we saw this happen again.
With the 17th choice in the NFL Draft 2000, the Oakland Raiders select Sebastian Janikowski, kicker, Florida State.
Sebastian Janikowski had been revered for his powerful kicks. In high school, he reportedly hit an 82-yarder in practice. In college, he became a fan favorite by consistently kicking the ball through the uprights on kickoffs, something almost no kicker could do at the time. After winning the Lou Groza Award twice, Janikowski clearly had everything you could want in a kicking prospect. Only one issue. Janikowski had been in trouble with the law in college, which included multiple fights outside of bars and being arrested for attempting to bribe an officer. After he was drafted, things continued to be an issue. Janikowski was arrested on drug charges. He was eventually acquitted of all these charges. But to make matters worse, he was one of the lowest ranked kickers as a rookie. However, things quickly turned around from there.
History. Sebastian Janikowski from 63 kicks on the way. It is good. He got it. Wow. NFL history tied here in Denver.
Sebastian Janikowski, otherwise known as Seabass, played 18 years with the Raiders, leaving the team as their all-time leading scorer, and with a multitude of records, including the longest field goal in overtime and the former record holder for longest field goal in general. In an era where the Raiders were mostly irrelevant with new faces constantly, Seabass became an icon amongst the fans. To me, the legend of the 76-yard field goal attempt has to be the pinnacle of how Raiders fans felt at the time. The kick wasn't even close. But here was what the team was dealing with. You had the choice to either trust Jamarcus Russell to make a play, or send out Seabass to attempt an impossible field goal. Yeah, let's go with the field goal. But with everything Seabass did in Oakland, you can still look at his career as a whole and argue he was not worth a first-round pick. His career field goal percentage was 80.4. This doesn't even rank him in the top 50 all time. In fact, Cody Parkey, an undrafted kicker who has been made fun of for years, has an 84.6 career field goal percentage. So even though Sebastian Janikowski is an icon amongst fans, he is not all-time great, and certainly not worth a first-round pick. The chances of us now seeing a first-round kicker or punter is almost certainly not going to happen, considering almost every top kicker today was either a late-round pick, or better yet, undrafted.
Well, this is the guy you want, Greg. If you're in this situation, I can't think of a better option.
This is for an NFL record 66 yards.
The longest in NFL history if it's good. A 66-yard try. Tucker's kick is on the way. It is good! Crossbar, and it tumbles through. It is good! Time has expired. Justin Tucker with the longest field goal in NFL history. The hay is in the barn, and it's mayhem on the field.
Oh my God.
You've just seen history.
Lost my mind.